Hello student, we are going to start with the lesson structure of atom. Matter, anything that occupies the space and has some mass, that are matter or substances. It may be chair, table, pen, book, etc. And the all matter was concluded to be made up of small particles called atom or parmanu. What is an atom made up of? Means these are the small particles. They are consisting of some particles. These are tiny particles. So, atom is a tiny particle of the substance. It is called as Parmanu. What makes the atom of one element different from the atom of another element? Are the atoms indivisible as proposed by the Dalton? That we are going to see. Atoms are so small particles that they cannot be seen by naked eye or under a microscope. Naturally, many questions arise in the minds of the scientists. So, these questions led to perform experiments and search evidences. Let us study about the atom first. It was given by John Dalton in the year as Dalton's atomic theory. At the end of 19th century and early 20th century, Dalton has studied the electron structure. Thus, it is known as Dalton's atomic theory. According to him, atom has a complex structure and is not indivisible. These studies also showed that atom is composed of smaller particles such as electron, proton and neutron. Thus, the fundamental particles forms the atom. These all are main constituents of the atom. According to Dalton's atomic theory, all matter is made up of small particles called as atoms, and atom is indivisible and indestructible particle. John Dalton proposed that atoms are structureless hard spherical particles. Theory remained undisputed up to the end of 19th century. Thus, according to him, he told that these are invisible and indestructible particles. Atoms can neither be created and nor destroyed, but atoms of an element are alike in all respect. That is, alike means size, shape, structure. They are all alike means same. Similar elements. Atoms of similar elements are all alike in all respect. For example, we have considered atom A, then its atoms are same in size, shape, color, physical properties, chemical properties. Thus, atoms of element are all alike in all aspects. If we will take the atoms of different element, then they are different in all aspect, means size, shape, structure, physical and chemical properties. For example, if we will take sodium atom, sodium element, then atoms of sodium element will they have same size, shape, physical properties and chemical properties. Thus, atoms of different element combine in fixed whole number ratio to form a compound. Compounds are also pure substances. Thus, if we will take the example of carbon dioxide, it is made from one carbon atom and two oxygen atom. They combine in the ratio 1s to 2. Thus, one carbon atom and two oxygen atom combine with the ratio of their volume as 1s to 2. Its proportion is always irrespective of its source. Everywhere carbon dioxide will have the formula CO2 because atoms which are present in the molecule, that is during formation of the compound, they always combine chemically with each other in specific amount or specific ratio, that is whole number ratio, to form a compound. We can take another example also. Suppose we have taken sulfur and oxygen atom and they combine chemically to form SO2. Then in this also one part of sulfur react with two parts of oxygen by volume to give SO2. So their ratio also sulfur and oxygen combine chemically in 1:2 ratio by their volume to give sulfur dioxide. So their amount is fixed whole number ratio. Already you have seen that while formation of carbon dioxide, it is a compound. It contains carbon and oxygen in a whole number ratio. Carbon, it is one part and two oxygen atom. Their ratio of volume is 1:2. That is one carbon and two oxygen atom combined to give carbon dioxide. Thus, one carbon atom, it is one part of its volume combined with two parts by volume of oxygen. They react chemically with each other to give carbon dioxide in 1:2 proportion. What is the drawback of Dalton's theory? According to Dalton, atom is indivisible, but later on it was proved that atom can be subdivided into subatomic particles, that is electron, proton and neutron, and this drawback cannot be explained by the Dalton. If you will take the example of the atom bomb, when it is bombarded, atoms get destructed with more light and heat energy. During that, electron, proton and neutron also get separated. It means that it can be subdivided into subatomic particle. In the above studies showed that atom is not indivisible as proposed by Dalton. On the other hand, it is composed of at least two types of the particles, namely electrons and protons. Moreover, the number of protons had to be equal to the number of electrons, as whole atom is electrically neutral. Drawback of John Dalton's theory is that atoms of same element can somehow differ from each other. So all these drawbacks lead to failure of Dalton's atomic theory. Drawbacks led to the scientists to perform experiments and search evidences to understand the structure of the atom and explain its important properties. Thus, after knowing about the atom, different attempts were made to know about its structure. As though there are different particles which are present in the structure of the atom, those are electron, proton and neutron. Their structures we need to study and how are they represented. So in order to study those all subatomic particles, again different theories are put forth. Scientists contributed in revealing the presence of charged particles in an atom. It leads to the discovery of electron. The cathode rays were discovered by J.J. Thomson in 19th century during studies of the passage of electricity through the gases at extremely low pressures. At high voltage, some rays were emitted through cathode and were traveling towards anode called cathode rays. It constitutes charged particles called electrons. Of another subatomic particle called as proton. It was discovered by E. Goldstein. It was actually discovered while carrying out experiment to produce cathode rays. The apparatus used is same as to that of discovery of electron. Here you can see the cathode ray tube. The tube is fitted with two metallic electrodes. The electrode other connected to the negative terminal of the battery is called cathode, while other connected to the positive terminal of the battery is called anode. The tube is connected to a side tube through which it can be evacuated to any desired pressure with the help of vacuum pump. The discharge tube is filled with the air or the gas under study, and two electrodes are connected to a source of high voltage. During this experiment, a current of high voltage about 10,000 volts was passed through the discharge tube under normal pressure of 1 atmosphere. It was observed that no electricity flows through the gas. The pressure of the gas inside the tube is slowly decreased by pumping out the gas with the help of vacuum pump in order to release the gases. When the pressure of the gas is decreased to 10 raised to minus 2 atmosphere, electricity started flowing through the tube. It was seen that cathode rays were produced and they traveled through a gas in discharge tube. While doing so, they get ionized. They took electrons of gas, leaving behind positively charged particles of gas. These particles formed canal rays and started moving towards the cathode. These particles possess positive charge, so they were named protons. We can see that canal rays constitute protons and the cathode rays shows that consist of negatively charged particles known as electrons. The discovery of electron and proton, the scientists started thinking of arranging the particles in an atom. The first simplest model was proposed by J. Thomson in 1899. He proposed that it is plum pudding model. An atom consists of positively charged sphere with electrons embedded in it. According to him, atom is positively charged sphere in which electrons are present at certain places like plums in pudding, as it is seen in the picture. From the watermelon picture, you can see that the electron which are negatively charged are embedded in the sphere of positive charge. Negative and positive charges balance each other and they affect their charges. So, the atom as a whole is neutral. This structure looks like a watermelon, that is tarbooj or Christmas pudding. The electron in a sphere of positive charge were linked to the currents, that is dry fruits in a spherical Christmas pudding. Thus, he actually compared the model with watermelon or raisins in ice cream, but there were few questions that he could not answer and these led to its failure. This model explains some of the properties of the atoms. It also explained these atoms are neutral. However, it was soon discarded when Rutherford and his co-worker observed some unusual scattering of alpha particle by thin metal foils. He was unable to explain the opposite charges affect each other. Thus, some of the drawbacks are seen in this Thomson's model. What are those drawbacks? He could not explain the stability and distribution of the charges and stability of the atom. So what was its failure? You can see that it could not explain the distribution of the charges and stability of an atom. So here there are charges, positive and negative charges, which are distributed inside in the sphere of the atom. Now Rutherford has put forth new model in order to understand the structure of the atom. He performed the experiment as alpha scattering experiment that we are going to discuss below. Rutherford and his co-workers made fundamental contribution in understanding the structure. He performed number of experiments known as scattering experiment. They took very thin sheets of the gold foil about 1000 atom thick, and alpha rays source is actually positively charged rays constituting helium nucleus is made to pass through it. Thus apparatus was shown in the figure. The alpha particles are positively charged helium ions, that is He2 plus, which carry 2 units of positive charge and mass of 4 times that of atom of hydrogen. Thus, experiment employs a piece of radioactive substance placed in a lead block. The block is constructed in such a way with slits that only narrow beam of alpha particle could escape, and the beam then passes through a thin gold foil. In order to detect the deflection of alpha particle, a movable screen coated with zinc sulfide was placed around the gold foil. When alpha particles strike the zinc sulfide screen, they produce flashes of light called as the scintillations. By examining different protons of the screen, it was possible to determine the proportions of alpha particle which got deflected through the various angles. When they strike, it produces the glow on that zinc sulfide coating around the gold foil. When alpha particles are passed through it, then we can see their striking at different places with a different angle. So, what Rutherford found was amazing. He made the following important observations. Most of the fast moving alpha particles pass straight through the gold foil without any deflection. They go straight away on the gold foil. Some of the alpha particles were deflected from their path through small angles. Here you can see that when it is going through the gold foil, there are atoms which are compactly arranged with each other. So most of the alpha rays, they pass in straight line from the atom. Some rays were deflected through small and larger angles, and some rays rebounded. Thus, very few, means about 1 in 12,000 alpha particle did not pass through the foil at all, would suffer large deflection and come back as is it. Since alpha particles are highly energetic particles, their scattering at large angles reflected that they had direct collision with the entire mass of the atom of the material. From these three observations, we can conclude that means as some rays passed straight, some rays were deflected through small and large angles, and some rays rebounded back in 180-degree angle. From these observations, Rutherford guessed that the atom of gold may have tiny part in the center and the remaining part is mostly empty. So, most of the space in the atom is empty. He has concluded according to this observation. According to second observation, he has told there is something in the center of an atom called nucleus. So, when alpha rays try to pass through the gold foil, it strike to the nucleus and they get deviated in the small angle. And that part is positively charged part, that is called center or nucleus of the atom. As alpha particles are striking from nearby of the nucleus, they get deviated with a small angle. But the very few particles they rebound, it means that when they exactly strike on the center, nucleus is also positive and alpha particles are also positive. Positive charges means same charges repel each other so that some of the or very few alpha particle rebound. Thus, these are three conclusions. There is most of the space inside the atom is empty. Second, there is a positive tiny part in the atom. And third one, the whole mass of the atom is concentrated at the center. So, according to Rutherford structure, atom it is similar to the solar system and atom is electrically neutral. Why? Because nucleus is positively charged and electrons are revolving around it. Thus, number of positive and negative charges, they exactly balance each other, they nullify their charges, means positive and negative charges are equal in number, therefore it is electrically neutral. Nucleus is in the center in which protons and neutrons are present and electrons are revolving in circular path around the nucleus. Thus, nucleus is positively charged due to the positively charged proton. P plus N both are heavy particles present in the nucleus and outside the nucleus electrons revolve like the planets revolve around the sun. Thus, proton positively charged, electron negatively charged and neutron has no charge. Therefore, whole mass of the atom is concentrated at the center because proton and neutron, these both particles present at the center and it constitute the mass of whole atom. Electrons have negligible mass. They are negatively charged and neutron has no charge. Thus, proton and electron they exactly balance each other, so whole atom is electrically neutral. This is Rutherford's atomic model. But what is the drawback? Suggested that electrons are revolving around the nucleus. When particles moves in a circle, it experiences a force in a direction away from the center called centrifugal force of an electron that counterbalance the force of attraction between moving electron and the nucleus. However, the circular revolution of a charge is not expected to be stable. If an object moves in a circular path, its motion is said to be accelerated. And according to electromagnetic theory of the physics, if charged particles undergoes accelerated motion, then it radiates energy or loses energy continuously. And thus, if it is continuously moving once, it will lastly fallen down in the nucleus. That the negatively charged electrons revolving around the nucleus will also radiate the energy continuously and lastly they will move close and closer to the nucleus and lastly it will fallen down into the nucleus. In other words, atom should collapse. But however, this never happens. We all know that electrons do not fall into the nucleus, rather atoms are very stable and do not collapse of their own. Therefore, Rutherford's model cannot explain the stability of the atom. This is the drawback of Rutherford's theory. According to electromagnetic theory, when any charged particles revolves continuously in circular path, it radiates energy and shortens its path. As we know, electrons are also charged particles revolving in circular path. They should emit energy and shorten their path and finally fall into the nucleus. It doesn't happen. From it, we can say that Rutherford's model cannot explain the stability of an atom. In 1932, J. Chadwick discovered another subatomic particle that is called as neutron, which had no charge and a mass which is nearly equal to that of proton. It was seen that the whole mass of an atom is due to the nucleus, and as far we know, nucleus is positively charged. Thus, neutrons and protons are present in the nucleus of all atoms except hydrogen. In general, neutron is represented by small n. The mass of an atom is therefore given by the sum of the masses of protons and neutrons present in the nucleus. These neutron and proton, as though they are present in the nucleus, called as nucleons. Therefore, mass of the atom denoted by A is equal to P plus N, that is mass of the proton plus mass of the neutron. It means that atomic mass is the sum of the masses of proton and neutron present in the atom. In 1932, Chadwick discovered the fundamental particle neutron. Atoms of all elements contain neutrons except hydrogen atom, which does not contain any neutron. Thus, characteristics of the neutrons are that a neutron is a subatomic particle having mass equal to that of hydrogen atom 1 AMU and carrying no electrical charge. So its absolute mass is 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg, equal to that of hydrogen atom. Means it has only protons. Hydrogen has no neutron, but we also know that mass of an atom is never equal to the atomic number. Atomic number means number of protons or number of electrons which exactly balances the number of proton. This shows that nucleus contains some other particles also that contribute towards the mass and not the charge. Therefore, the particles were called neutrons. In general, neutron and proton, they are present in the nucleus. To overcome the drawback of Rutherford's model, Niels Bohr proposed a new model of the atom which was based on new concept. He made the suggestion that electrons could revolve around the nucleus in the certain circular path that are called orbits or energy levels. Thus, it was given by Neil Bohr. He actually tried to give the best by covering the drawbacks of Rutherford. So, what are the postulates made by Niels Bohr in 1912 that we are going to study now? In 1912, Niels Bohr put forward the model to explain the structure of an atom. The main postulates of the Niels Bohr theory are: atom is electrically neutral, that is, number of protons equal to number of electrons. Therefore, as positive and negative charges exactly balance, atom is neutral. In the center of an atom, nucleus is present. As compared to the whole atom, nucleus is very small. and it is positively charged. In nucleus, protons and neutrons are present. Protons have positive charge and neutrons are chargeless. So, proton positive, negative and no charges for the neutron. Thus, outside of the nucleus, there are shells or the energy levels into which electrons are revolving. These are designated as KLMN or by the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. In shells, electrons are revolving. They are negatively charged. Thus, electrons in an atom revolve around the nucleus in certain fixed circular path. These circular paths are known as orbits or shells. These are some main points of the Niels Bohr theory. To him, each orbit has fixed energy. Therefore, these orbits are also known as energy levels or energy shells. As long as electron remains in particular orbit, it does not lose or gain energy. Each cell, as it has fixed amount of energy, they are continuously revolving in those circular paths. Thus, electrons never lose or gain energy when they are in their own shell. The change in energy of an electron takes place only when it jumps from one energy level to another. Number of electrons in each shell is determined by Bohr's-Bury rule, and this Bohr's-Bury rule is that 2n square, where n is equal to KLMN or n is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. The shell near to the nucleus is called as ground energy level, that is denoted by K. So, if we will take the formula 2n square in order to calculate the number of electron where n is equal to number of shell. For K shell, n value is 1. So, in the K shell, how many electrons can be accommodated? We can write that 1 into 2 means 1 square 1, 2 into 1 that is 2. So only 2 electrons can be accommodated in the K shell. By taking the same formula, we can calculate the distribution of the electrons in another shell, that is L shell. For L shell, n value is 2. So 2 into 2 square, that is 4. 2 into 4 is equal to 8. So in L shell, maximum number of 8 electrons are accommodated. Maximum number of electrons present in the M shell will be 2n square, means 2 into 3 square, that will be equal to 18, and fourth orbit or N shell will be 2 into 4 square, that will be 32, and so on. Thus, first shell 2 electron, second shell 8 electron, and third shell 18 electron, fourth shell 32 electron, and so on. Thus, Bohr's model of an atom shows this structure of the atom. Some definitions which are shown as atomic number is denoted by the letter Z. It is number of protons in an atom. It is denoted by letter P, that is proton. Thus, total number of protons in an atom denotes atomic number of that atom. In any neutral atom, Number of protons equal to number of electrons. Suppose sodium has atomic number 11. So proton number in it will be 11. Atom is electrically neutral. Why? Because suppose in sodium electron will be 11 and protons will be 11. Thus plus 11 minus 11 it will be 0. Now atomic numbers of 1 to 20 atom in sequence. We can see those elements. Now name of the element. Atomic number 1 is of hydrogen. Atomic number 2 helium, 3 lithium, 4 beryllium, 5 boron. Atomic number 6 is of carbon atom. Atomic number 7 nitrogen atom. Atomic number 8 is of oxygen atom. Atomic number 9 that is fluorine. Atomic number 10 neon. Atomic number 11 sodium. Atomic number 12 magnesium. Atomic number 13 that is of aluminium element. Atomic number 14 is of silicon element. 15 is of phosphorus. 16 is of sulfur element. Atomic number 17 is of chlorine. Atomic number 18 is of argon. Atomic number 19 that is of potassium element. And atomic number 20 is of calcium element. Thus, these are the atomic number and the elements from 1 to 20 in sequence. You can see their symbols as hydrogen H, helium He, lithium Li, beryllium Be, boron B, carbon C, nitrogen N, oxygen O, fluorine F, neon Ne, sodium Na, magnesium Mg, aluminium Al, silicon Si, phosphorus P, sulfur by S later, chlorine Cl, argon Ar, potassium by K later and calcium Ca. Thus, these all are the elements with their symbol. So, first letter is always capital or big letter and second letter is small. If we are writing magnesium, then we are taking M as capital and second letter G small letter. In this way, nomenclature is given or symbols are given to the element. Now, what is mass number? It is also called as atomic mass. Atomic mass, it is concentrated at the center of the the atom, that is nucleus. Hence, it is number of proton or electron and neutron. So, mass number denoted by letter A is defined as sum of the protons and neutrons which are present in the nucleus, that is at the center of the atom, or it can also be defined as a number of nucleons in an atom. So what are nucleons? As protons and neutrons present in the nucleus, so these both particles togetherly called as nucleons. Now representation of an element. Suppose you have considered any element X. Atomic number is denoted by Z and atomic mass number is denoted by A. So at the base of the element X, we are showing atomic number, and at the top of the element we are showing atomic mass, that is mass number A. Thus it is denoted as AXZ. Z is atomic number. Suppose, for example, we have taken example of sodium as an element. So its atomic number is 11. It will be shown at the base or at the bottom and raised to 23, means sodium has atomic number 11 and atomic mass equal to 23. Another element, suppose argon, Ar, its atomic number is 18. It is shown at the base and its mass number is 40. It is shown as raised to. In this way, elements can be represented with their atomic number and atomic mass. To learn about electronic distribution in atom, how they are arranged in the different shells of the orbit. The electrons are present in the outermost shell are known as valence electron. Thus, electronic configuration is arrangement of the electrons in different shells. Already you are knowing that electrons are revolving around the nucleus and their number is given according to the Bohr's rule, that is 2n square. In the K shell, 2 electrons are present. In the L shell, 8 electrons, and in the outermost shell every time there is maximum number of 8 electrons, that is octet. This outermost shell is called as the valence shell, and the electrons present in this valence shell are called valence electrons. So, according to Niels Bohr theory, first shell has 2 electrons, second shell has 8 electrons, third shell has 18 electrons, fourth shell has 32 electrons, and so on. This is according to Bohr-Bury scheme or Bohr-Bury rule. We also know that outermost shell of an atom has maximum 8 electrons. For example, if 288 means 18 electron distribution, that is 288. In the outermost shell, maximum number of electron is 8, that is octet. First K shell, 2 electrons, second shell 8 electron, and third outermost shell will be 8 electron, that is octet. Here remaining 8 electron goes in M shell. Now what is valency? Valency is defined as the combining capacity of an atom with the other elements, that is their tendency to react and form the molecules with the atom of the same or different element. For example, lithium, its atomic number is 3, electronic distribution will be 2, 1, proton number is 3, electron number is also 3. So how these electrons get distributed? In the K shell, electrons will be 2, 1. So in the outermost shell of lithium atom there is only 1 electron. And you are knowing that K shell maximum capacity is of 2 electron. So its valency will be 1. In case of phosphorus, its atomic number is 15 and proton number will be 15 as well as electron number will be 15. What is electronic distribution? It will be 2, 8, 5. In the outermost shell of phosphorus, there will be 5 electron. 2 plus 8, 10 plus 5, 15. Thus, valence electrons are 5. In order to complete its octet, it need to gain or share 3 more electrons. Helium and hydrogen has its complete duplet. Therefore, hydrogen has valency 1, helium has valency 0. But in case of phosphorus, in order to complete its octet, it needs 3 electrons to share or gain. Thus, its valency will be 3. Valency is different for different element and valence electrons are different for the different element. Which is the valence shell? Outermost shell of any element is called as valence shell. Therefore, if we consider in the sodium, it has third valence shell and in its electron is only 1. But in case of phosphorus, valence electrons are 5. Thus, sodium has 1 valence electron, phosphorus has 5 valence electron, lithium has 1 valence electron. Thus, valency increases from 0 to 4. When these 1 electron, 2 or 3 electrons are removed or lost by that element, it forms positive ions with +1, +2, +3 charges according to the loss of electron. But in order to complete its octet, if they gain electron, then it forms the negative ions and thus this +4 plus -4, it will be maximum number of the electrons gain or lose. When they gain electron, it carries negative charge. So, what are the types of valency? Valency are electrovalency or covalency. Electrovalency is that it is the valency that is attained by losing and gaining of the electron. For example, when they lose electron, they form positive ions. When they gain electron, they form negative ion. For example, sodium atomic number is 11. Its electronic distribution is 281. It has tendency lose 1 electron. So, if we will write K-L-M shell for the sodium, you will easily understand that it can easily lose 1 electron which is present in the outermost shell, that is 1 valence electron. Thus, by losing 1 electron, it can attain its octet, that is with the 2, 8. And after losing, it forms Na plus ion with electronic distribution 2, 8, which will be more stable than that of the sodium atom, which is in the gaseous state or ground state. Therefore, its valency is electrovalency 1 because it is by formation of the positive charge ion. It loses 1 electron and attains the stability with the distribution that is 2, 8. So, sodium is monovalent. It shows electrovalency. It is ionic compound. Gaining means taking the electron and losing electron, that is removing the electron from the outermost shell. When they gain electron, they form negative ions. When they lose electron, they form positive ions. For example, chlorine has tendency to gain electron because its electronic distribution 287 according to its atomic number 17. It has 7 valence electron in its outermost shell. So, in place of losing 7 electron, it needs less energy to gain 1 electron. By gaining 1 electron, it forms Cl- ion, that is with electronic configuration 288. and it form negative ion, that is Cl287. When it gain one electron, it gives Cl minus ion with 288 electronic distribution. Thus, this is about electrovalency. Now we will see covalency. Covalency is that is attained by sharing of the electron. There are some atoms which can share the electrons between the two atoms at the center during formation of the molecule. For example, carbon compound. Carbon, its atomic number is 6. Distribution is 2, 4. 4 valence electrons are present in the outermost shell. Therefore, it is called as tetravalent atom. So, it can lose or gain 4 electron. In place of that, carbon shares 4 electron with other element. Thus, if we will consider this chlorine atom for the formation of CCl4, carbon tetrachloride, it takes carbon has 4 electrons in its outermost shell that are shown, and each chlorine has 287 means 7 electrons. Thus, these both atoms, carbon and chlorine, shares 1 electron with each other and they complete its octet. So, carbon has 4 electron itself and it takes 4 electron from the chlorine. Thus, valence shell, it is the last shell of an atom. Sodium, atomic number 11, outermost shell contain 1 electron. So, it is the last shell, that is valence shell. Valence electrons means they are the electrons present in the outermost shell, that is in the valence shell. Thus, in case of sodium, as its electronic configuration is 281, the 1 electron present in the M shell is called as valence electron.